This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, how to identify the best manufacturing software for your business.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today, How to Identify the Best Manufacturing Software for Your Business. Shawn Windle is our speaker for today. Shawn is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Shawn has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. On today's call, Shawn will discuss how manufacturing companies can ensure they select the right software solution for their unique requirements. Hi, Shawn. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome, Juliet. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. So, okay, if we want to dive right in, I was going to say that manufacturing encompasses so much for so many different types of manufacturing, products, industries, just to name a few. And because of that, each manufacturing business has its own unique needs. So with that, Shawn, let me ask you, for context, can you talk to us a little bit about why the requirements of the manufacturing industry are so unique?
Yeah, for sure. If you think about all of the products that you use in your daily life, or even products that businesses only use, you think about some of these huge machines at a refinery, or all kinds of different things are produced where there's an end product.
Right.
So you've got just a wide variety of requirements, from an airplane to a pen. Right? To just a pen. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of different kinds of developed products, manufactured products, and you have different ways in which products are manufactured. Some products go through, excuse me, they go through a one unique product at a time. Like my uncle used to work for Lockheed Martin, and they make airplanes.
Right.
So he gave us a tour one time when I was a young man, not that old, but we're getting there.
When you were younger.
When I was younger, I got a birthday coming up. It's not the big one, but we're getting close. But anyway, it was so cool to see an F-14 being built. Like, it was amazing, right? That's one almost $100 million project or product that manufacturer was working on. And there were multiple planes too. Then we've had other clients that make lots and lots and lots of little products over and over and over, kind of more discrete kind of manufacturing. And so, you look at those two extremes, and there's other examples in between there, even of like one of our products makes lotions and creams, right? That's what they make. That's called more a batch manufacturing or process manufacturing. So you basically sort of have to start at the top to say, what kind of a product are we manufacturing? Is it a discrete item, or is it more of a batch or process manufacturing? I think most manufacturers know that. It's pretty obvious, right? They've been in the business for years. That's pretty obvious. But that's the first sort of decision point that has to be made. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense. Yes.
Perfect.
And so with that, Shawn, let me ask you, what are some of the common pain points felt by manufacturing companies when it comes to their software?
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, we run into everything, as you know, right?
Yep.
You talk to a lot of our customers who end up engaging us.
Yeah.
And you hear on the backside why they wanted some help. But sometimes a process manufacturer will buy software that's made for discrete manufacturers. That does happen. And so you have to be sure that as a buyer of enterprise software, ERP software, as a manufacturer, you got to make sure that you get the right kind of app for your business, right? Sounds obvious, but it gets confusing, and everybody will tell you we can do it, So you got to really look for yourself. So that's one reason. But the second reason, it actually goes deeper into the differences of manufacturers, because some manufacturers make to order, they have engineer to order, right? So like the airplanes are engineered to a specific design, right?
Right.
There's also make to stock, where we're building a bunch of the same things. We're going to put it in inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other kinds of modes of manufacturing that you have to understand on what you do. Then, yeah, I don't want to go. I'm going pretty deep here at the early part of the call, so I hope I haven't lost anybody yet. If I've lost you, come back.
Okay.
this gets complex, right?
Yes.
But
yes.
but the trick of the whole thing is you have to understand what you need, just like we always talk about, Juliet, right?
Yep.
Before you go to the vendor. And if you're a manufacturer, you really, really have to understand this. Now, the good news is that there are many vendors in the marketplace that do provide ERP software specific for manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have the responsibility to make sure that when you say, oh, yeah, I'm a project-based manufacturer, that the vendor not only hears it, but really understands what that means to you. Because we have one manufacturing client we're working with right now, and we're a construction company. We just build we have a big project and we help with these construction projects, and that's what we are. But if you were to implement construction specific software, you would hate it, because you have tons of supply chain needs and inventory needs and lots of material needs. And some of the construction management solutions offer that,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really a manufacturing company that's very project centric. So there's labor, there's material, there's work in progress that has to be, tracked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you really have to understand what you need before you go to the market, especially. And again, you can't go wrong by saying that anytime, but especially with manufacturers, you got to know what you need. And we'll talk more about what some of those needs are, I'm sure, as we go.
Right. So, we advise our clients on ERP solutions, right? But we know that sometimes manufacturing companies need more specialized functionality. And so what solutions are out there for those businesses to consider, like an MRP versus an MES? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I can. Yeah. And I think the way to break it down is from the simplest to the more complex. And Juliet, you got to keep me honest, because if I say something where you're like, Shawn, what are you talking about? You call me out on it. Okay.
Okay. For
Good.
Sure.
Here we go. So if you think about a manufacturing company in general, there's usually a lot of supply chain requirements, meaning purchasing. We got to go out and buy stuff, right? Of course, there's hiring requirements too in HR. Usually those get handled separately, but you got to have people to make stuff unless you have a ton of machines. Fine. Mm-hmm. But we'll focus on the inventory side. So we have to buy raw goods, raw materials. Then we have to store them. So there's inventory management, warehouse management requirements that can come in, right? Sometimes some of our clients, they manufacture very perishable items, right? Or their raw material may be things like hearts. Well, we haven't gotten into the hearts, like the meniscus. We have a client that's in that business where they basically help people who need different new body parts. I totally hacked that up, but specifically for orthopedic surgeons that are working with athletes or individuals that become immobilized because specifically ligaments and other parts of their body just don't work. So they have the ability to they inventory and manage the warehouse of these specific perishable items, right? We have other clients that are food manufacturers, right? So they have to keep items cool. They have to keep things heated, whatever it is. And then sometimes we have like steel distributors that just need a lot of space to put a whole lot of steel in. So you have purchasing, you have inventory, and warehouse management for sure. Makes sense so far?
Yep, it sure does.
Good. Now we need to take those materials and then we add labor and we get a finished product. We also may get a component product, which is a thing that goes into something else that we do. But that is what we would call manufacture. That's the manufacturing process itself, right? So we take the raw materials out of inventory. Hey, we're going to put it into this job, and we're going to add some labor labor to that job to do whatever we do. We have some machining time, right? We may charge machines to that job. We have overhead allocation of light and electricity. This is all back to your cost accounting classes, if anybody took it. That's probably the only person who's still listening to me anyway, but Juliet, you look like you're tracking, so that's good.
Yes.
So you make the product, right? Then once it's made, you have to QC it. You've got to make sure that it meets the specifications per the customer's needs,
right,
and then usually ship it. But here's the thing. How do you know what to make and when to make it, right? And that's where planning comes in and scheduling comes in. And it's not just planning what items to produce. It's also what lines, what manufacturing lines should we use? Let's say we have 10 lines in a manufacturing facility. We should use 4, 5, and 6 because of some reasons, right? So you get into production planning, you get into scheduling your people, you're checking on when materials are going to come in. So, production planning, production scheduling, advanced planning and scheduling. So planning is a big deal. And of course, we also need to plan when we're going to get materials and what materials we need. Well,
right,
that's materials requirements planning. So you have planning, then you have sort of the execution path, right? And then even on the manufacturing floor itself, sometimes you need the ability to track actual time to a job. You need to track actual materials to a job, or maybe a work center within a job. Right. Very detailed kind of tracking has to happen. That's manufacturing execution systems or shop floor control systems right there.
Okay.
And then, like I said, there's specific quality management systems, or you might hear quality management systems, electronic quality management systems, or EQMS. Believe it or not, I just went through 7 apps. They can be best of breed apps there. And that doesn't even include accounting, right?
Right.
Which is the costing, because we're trying, as a manufacturer, you got to know how much these products cost to make. So not only you can set your pricing, but so that you're going to be profitable and have a business tomorrow.
Right.
So there's the costing side of the accounting, but then of course there's the invoicing and the collections of cash and so on and so forth, as well as the accounting for what's called work in progress, which is how much inventory are we working on that's in a job right now that's not in the factory or in the warehouse, pardon me. So that's like 10 apps, 10 best of breed apps right there.
Right. Oh my gosh. And does that include, did I miss it? Where like, even if they make something and then they go to sell it, like that's a whole nother like e-commerce part of it in a way, like if they sell it online, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. If you take a company like, we have a couple of clients that are in the consumer goods industry. One of them makes duck decoys, another makes gun cleaning materials. We have others that make camping chairs. We got all kinds of clients. Yeah. And so once it's made, how do they then make it available to their customers, right? And that might even go back to a CRM system if they have a direct sales force, or like you said, Juliet, they may have an e-commerce site, and they may want to put how many items are available, availability online. Well, how do they know unless they know what's being manufactured?
Right.
So that's exactly right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, since I don't know any of this, right? That is this like the difference between like an MRP or an MES or an ERP? Like, can you have both potentially, like an MES and an MRP, and then an ERP that does your CRM or does helps with your like HR and your purchasing and what have you? Like, can you have both or customize one over the other?
Or have it all, or have one? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes. It depends on your needs. So this is why in our needs assessment, and anybody can send a note to you, Juliet, Juliet at ERPadvisorsgroup.com, and they can ask for a sample presentation of what we do for manufacturing companies. We just want your name and email in exchange. But you'll see how we sort of go through a process of saying, okay, here is we call it the business process ecosystem.
Okay.
So there's marketing, there's sales, there's purchasing, there's inventory, there's manufacture, planning, invoicing, the AP, blah, blah, blah. Like we lay out all of the boxes of what a business does. And then we say, where are you having the most pain? Yeah, purchasing is fine. And you have a pretty simple purchase approval process. And, purchasing is not a big requirement for you guys, but boy, the manufacturing really is. And you want to have detailed execution level data here. So, we could do an ERP, remember, enterprise resource planning. So we're planning the resources are things like inventory or our people, our manufacturing lines, all that stuff, right? All of it. The ERP does a lot of the whole business, right? But here's another little clue. If anybody's there still, listen, here we go. Golden tip. Not every ERP actually does automate some of these boxes.
Interesting.
They have maybe a best of breed bolt-on that you see this in, right? You look at Microsoft Business Central, there's a lot of bolt-ons. NetSuite has some solutions for process manufacturing that are written within NetSuite and outside of NetSuite. Some solutions, the big Microsoft Finance and Operations has a lot of stuff in it, but then some partners have written some solutions. So the key thing is this. Again, goes back to your core needs. And then you have to figure out how each app fits over that box that, really just overlays over what you need and where the gaps are. And then you might need to go find a best of breed solution. Now, a good software salesperson knows this. Okay. The best ones do this. And there are great people out there. And they will say, look, for our solution, we've gone into your business and you do a lot of configuration of products. You have the easy example back when I was at JD Edwards were forklifts. What kind of a shovel do you want on the front end? What color do you want? What kind of seat? What kind of engine? There's some configuration points. Some of the apps have configuration tools that are pretty good in them. Some of them don't. So you really have to understand, if that's a main area for you, how is this vendor going to meet it? And it always goes back to flapping the jaws like I am, blah, blah, blah. But you have to have them show you how your business would operate through their solution. And when they start throwing up slides, oh yeah, this is how it would work. They're like, well, that's PowerPoint. No. This is a picture of how it would work. Oh, are you not able to show me that in your app? Well, it takes too long to set it up.
Oh, red flag. I'm
going to have this app for 10 years and you can't take the time to set it up.
Right.
So you really, as a manufacturer, have to make dang sure that you yourself, your team, you assign a team, they have to be able to see this is exactly how our business processes will flow through this app. And if there's any red flags, even a yellow flag, that's fine. Write it down, get through the demo and go back to the people and say, hey, we didn't see this at all. And you need to show it to us. Right. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And, that brings me to a question of, okay, you can know your needs and you can work hard and ask all the questions on the front end to hope that whatever solution you pick is right for what you need. But once you're in there and then you realize oh boy, we really needed this, or, oh boy, we should have done this. How hard is it to change and add, reconfigure, or is that a customization? Has that happened? And how do people handle that? Yeah.
Well, the question is, what time is it? Has it happened today yet? I think it's happened 3 times today.
I'm sure.
It happens all the time, no different than you decide, okay, I'm going to buy this house and it's wonderful and it's great. And you move in and you're like, uh-oh, there's not enough bedrooms. Something changes, right?
Right.
Or maybe we didn't really realize the way the heating system worked. And now we get into it and we're like, wait, there's no whatever. And we really need it, right? Same thing with ERP, right? We try to reduce the amount of risk that you have before you actually implement. But, the other thing I should say, this is again, I feel like I'm aging myself today. But we used to say a long time ago, ERP is like cement. Before you implement it, it's like wet cement. You can move it and smooth it around and move it over here, move it over there, and everything's fine, but then when you go live and you start putting data in your system, it hardens, right?
That's right.
And it's sort of stuck in a certain state. Now, some of the apps are more pliable than others, depending on their underlying technology base. That's another clue for people too. It's another really good nugget. So if you're going to do, if you're not sure about things, you don't want to bring in a solution that is more or less pliable, where the technology platform isn't as flexible. You want to have something that is more flexible, because things are always going to change anyway. There's no question. You just can't, it's like a relationship. You just can't quite get it right. I think Erica reminded me of that. When was it? Today.
Oh,
but it was good. It was cute. Anyway, but it's true. You just have to be able to work with a solution. So the other key part to that too, as usual, Juliet, especially though for manufacturers, is get a good implementation partner. So somebody who's worked with not just similar businesses, but manufacturers, not just manufacturers, but discrete manufacturers, not just discrete, but project-based manufacturers, not just project-based manufacturers, but specific to your micro vertical. And they need a couple references that can do that. And you'll be surprised. There are vendors out there that have the experience. So they will also be able to help guide you during that wet cement period to say, no, you don't want to design your BOMs this way, your bill of materials, because later on, if you bring in a new product line, like you told us, you're going to have to extend the bill of materials this way, which won't work. We want to do it that way instead. Thank God. So you also have to make sure your implementation partner not just has the experience, but also patience to really listen and understand. Now, all the people on the implementation team don't need to be that way. To be totally honest with you, they don't. But the lead architect, the director, the manager, whoever that person is that's really driving the solution, she needs to be able to say, I've done this before. I've made some mistakes with other clients, right? And here's what we need to do to avoid those mistakes with you, or challenge you to say, that's not the right way to do this. This is the right way to do it. Okay. So those are some really key points.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So say before the cement hardens, right? Like as you're implementing and you're working with your partner, if you want to make changes, say the cement has hardened. Like, do you have to wait to make other changes until potentially it's time to renegotiate your deal? Or how can you go about making a change if you need to? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And the right answer, as my accounting professor always used to say, is it depends. But
it might cost you.
It will cost you. That's right. We do know that will happen. It will cost you. But let's say you end up needing more software than you thought. So you want to add something in, no problem, right? And remember, we have to separate the physical nature of software from the contracting. Okay. The physical nature of most applications is they can turn on or turn off functionality pretty easily, right? Now, the contracts may say, they do say, this is what you bought.
Right.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I need this other thing. No problem. We can turn it on, but we're going to charge you more.
That's right.
Right. So there will be an upcharge for sure if you want to add something. If you want to take something away, well, you better look closely at your contracts, because most of the subscription service agreements say you were contracted for this software for 3 years. You're like, oh yeah, that's fine. Well, I can get rid of it. I mean, I'm not going to use it, so then I don't get charged for it. That's not what the contracts say. There's only one company we've come across that does that.
Oh, really? Oh,
that
boy.
will actually take something off.
And at that point, it's just easier to keep it and not use it than it is to try to get it removed, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know. Julia,
also overwhelming.
We had to do this call because poor manufacturers, which make up a lot of our clients and other guys and gals that do what we do, a lot of manufacturers call us because this is hard stuff. But the reason why at the end of the day is this, that in America, in Europe, Africa, everywhere, Australia, New Zealand, China, India, all over the world, right? We have been manufacturing products for many, many, many centuries, really, at this point. And in ERP was built on the concept of MRP, materials requirements planning. Mm-hmm. That's where enterprise resource planning came from, right? MRP, ERP. Thank you, Gartner Group, for that. But most of the implementations that were going in place in the 60s, probably even the early 50s, but definitely 60s and 70s, were with manufacturers. Okay. So we have 60, 70 years of development of apps that has occurred over that time. Mm-hmm. So in that time, man goes more and more and more specialized with software products over time. And so that's why you see very specific advanced planning and scheduling systems based off of heuristic modeling versus Monte Carlo analysis versus other kinds of simulation technologies that are very, very, very focused because there's a market for that, because the customers, the manufacturers know, oh, I've used SAP forever, or I use JD Edwards, and I know basically what an ERP does, but that's too broad. I want to do something specific, and boom, there's a company out there that wrote something for it. Yeah. So that's the tricky part, is there's just so many solutions. But if you can figure out what you want and need, and you can sort of hone in on the market on the types of apps that do it, you'll be okay, right? And the ERP vendors, remember, when you think ERP, go broad. That's what you're trying to do with an ERP, is because most of our clients, and we work with companies that are in the billions, but definitely our smaller, mid-size organizations, they don't have the tech staff to support a whole bunch of ERP, APS, MES, QMS, EIOS, whatever, right? They don't have people to support these apps. So they want to find one or two apps that do the majority of it, which we love that approach for our clients too, because then it's simple. It's just simple. Now, maybe they have a person. I'm going to go out on a limb by saying this, Juliet, so you can pull me back. Okay. But sometimes clients have an individual who themselves is very, very savvy and sophisticated with software.
But not always. We've learned that for sure.
Not always, right? But let's say that person, came from a really big company, big international conglomerate manufacturer. They come down to a $500 million manufacturer, whatever. And that person comes in and says, okay, we got to do this and we got to do that. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Good. So they go to market, they buy a solution, and then that person leaves. And everybody else who's been around for a while and who's going to be there for a while and who's really got the company on their back, right, on their shoulders, looks at this app and says, oh my God, why did we buy this thing? What is this for? I don't even know how to use it. So especially for manufacturing companies, there's so many solutions, and they're so great solutions. You also have to have internal users that will take the time to really own the app and learn how to use it well. And if it's just one person, you're at risk. I hate to say it. I really do, because that person leaves and everybody's scratching their head like, now, why do we have this 5-year contract that's for, $300,000 a year, and nobody knows how to use this, and what are we going to do about it? And I'm thinking about a specific client that we worked with through this problem. So it's very real.
Yeah. So, Shawn, what requirements may indicate to a business that they need to evaluate an MRP or an MES solution over a general ERP?
Yes, that's a great question. Basically, if the company has, we have some nonprofits that have manufacturing too. We have one that makes personal hygiene products in the third world countries. It's incredible what those guys do. But you have to look at, is the basics in place or not? Do we have basic purchasing capability? Do we have basic inventory? Do we have basic manufacturing, work in progress, routings, work orders, right? Do we have basic quality, basic distribution, meaning tracking stuff going out in the warehouse or being shipped or whatever, and basic accounting? if you have that in place, for heaven's sakes, don't change it. Don't go through the pain and anguish of doing that. There's a whole slew of other reasons, 8 that I think we've identified on why you would change those out, right?
Right.
But if all 8 of those other problems are fine, and the app itself is fine, good technology support and, all the rest of that stuff. We talk about that on other calls. But, we really need to know what the status of a job is on like a day-by-day basis on the shop floor.
Right. What phase they're in, or where the process, right? Yep.
That's right. What material are we waiting for? What material's been assigned to another job that the promised date is later, so we can pull the materials and put it on this job where the promised date is tomorrow? Or we really need to track our people and their time, and because they do something very unique and need to charge different costs to that job or that specific phase of the job as we go. Or again, on the shop floor itself, we have maybe a savvy manager, shop floor manager, and they've got a team underneath them of people that are trying to do things like Kanban, just-in-time, lean manufacturing, all of those just being manufacturing methods and technologies to improve a manufacturing operation. You got to have good data for that. You have to have great data. Right. That's where it makes sense to look at an MES.
Okay.
MRP usually comes with an ERP just fine, but we'll have clients that have really complex inventory requirements, multi-site, 10 manufacturing plants around the world, and their supply chain is complex, and they're buying components from Asia. They're buying specialized parts from Germany. Electronics manufacturers are kind of this way. We're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that they have to look at. The material planning is very complex. You might need a specialized app for that. Although, and I'm going to put a challenge out. So we have about 19 people on this call right now. And as we know, lots of people listen to the ERP, the Trusted Advisor podcast. And I'm putting a challenge out to anybody. I mean, anybody. And I will send you $100 gift card of wherever you want. If you can send me back an email, Shawn, SHAWN at ERPadvisorsgroup.com. If you can prove to me that your company doesn't, once the MRP plan is produced, still have somebody who manually goes in and tinkers with it. If you do that completely automated, send me a picture, a screenshot, something, and I swear to goodness, I will send you whatever kind of Amazon, whatever. Because in my experience, and 30 years almost? No, that's too old. But I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies. Every single one, they get a fancy schmancy MRP. And at the end of the day, the purchasing manager, the materials manager, supply chain director, blah, 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 looks at it and says, no, that's not right. We should buy this instead of that.
Boy.
But that's okay, because they get all of this processing, the original AI, OG AI is MRP. That's hilarious. The MRP vendors should change their thing to AI MRP. There you go. That's what I would do if I were them. ML, right? AI, MRP. But that's really what MRP is taking all this logic and coming up with, here's what you should buy, right? And I'm sure there's some really super savvy organizations out there that have wired it in, but the vast majority of folks, they take what's developed by the system and they tweak. But if they didn't have the system, Juliet, they would have to do all of it on their own. So instead, the guru looks at it and says, this or that can take an hour versus having 10 hours to process all the data. So MRP has a place, don't get me wrong, but everybody tinkers with their MRP plan.
Well, I know I asked you this before, like if you could have both, is one more important than the other? Like, would an ERP be the umbrella and you'd have the MEP or the MRP underneath, or would it be the MEP, MRP with the ERP underneath, or would it be vertical? Right? Does that make sense?
It does. But even as you're throwing out new acronyms, I'm getting confused.
I'm sorry. Wait, MRP, ME, what did I say?
MRE? Or would you say MER?
MRP, MES. Sorry.
MES.
ERP, all the vowels, letters, consonants, whatever.
Juliet, you can imagine how somebody
point,
just like, I have to buy this stuff and I don't even know what the acronyms are. I mean, they know how to make, like, I mean, we've got a client right now that makes the end of robotic arms. That's all they do. So they don't make the robotic arm, they make the application that these factories buy, when they're making cars or whatever. There's a laser, there's a cutter, there's a welder, whatever. That's all our client does.
Right.
So specialized and so hard what these people do. And then they have to go understand what you just went through, right? It's impossible. It's actually impossible.
Right.
So to answer your question, here it is. The simpler, the better, always. And so if you can get away with one app that does good enough, we're going to go all in on that.
Okay.
Like we have a client right now, actually, I'm a little worried about it because we selected a very specialized manufacturing app. And I'm not sure that specialized manufacturing app goes as broad as what the client will need in the future. So, I mean, we're dealing with this in present time, like literally right now with our clients. And this is what we do for a living. Imagine how somebody feels on their own out there. I'm sorry if you're running right now, you're listening to this on your treadmill or riding your bike or whatever, take a break, get a little water. We feel for you, brother or sister. Okay, now go back at it. But seriously, like the simpler, the better. Always, 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 always. I don't care how big the organization is. I do not care. I don't care how many people you have in IT. I don't care how many people are trying to justify their job by the new system that they're trying to purchase. We are 100% focused on the enterprise, on what's right for the business, not one person or what one individual thinks, or maybe two, or even a department, but what is really best. And it's always better to go with simple stuff. So if we can get everything that we need that's just enough and get a win, I mean, like literally, hallelujah, right? Don't forget, our wonderful industry has a lot of failure rates, and this is a big reason why. Oh, it's like Chris Farley from from the van down by the river. I need MES, MRP, APS, time tracking. I need, this and that, and I need it in a van down by the river, right? That was pretty funny. I mean, I could have stood up and done the whole belt.
Oh my gosh.
But to get back to business here, just don't do that. Like go simple, and then you can go on a gradient, get the win, get your business flowing, your transactions flowing from sales order gets created, boom, a work order can flow from that once it gets approved to go into production. And then that kicks off the bill of materials. And then you've got production scheduling. And now you can start, getting inventory out of the warehouse and assigning it for a job. And somebody gets a pick ticket, they go grab it, they put it to the job, they change the inventory site, they start working on it, it moves to the next work cell, and boom, you got a finished product. Like, holy cow, that's amazing to even get that much.
Right. And especially if you mentioned that everyone has to tweak it a little bit, right? So the simpler, the better, even if you have to tweak it, right? That's right.
And then maybe, oh my gosh, we need an EQMS because we're a defense contractor and we have these really complex specifications and we have to track our testing down to the T on, and we have 300 cases and whatever we have to go through. You're doing it in Word today, and you attach the Word document that shows you did the test to the product, and that's compliance enough. Fine. But as you go on and it gets more complex, well, maybe you do bring in an EQMS system. Even the best EQMS guys and gals will say, we're not for everybody, right? We're very specialized in what we do. And that's how you're talking to a good software vendor, by the way, is they're humble about it. And they're not trying to shove something down your throat. They're really trying to help you understand what you need so that then they can be successful.
That's right.
There's definitely some cats out there that are looking to just close a deal. That's true. But the vast majority, especially experienced people that are there, right? they really do want to make sure that you need their manufacturing best of breed solution, right? Because that's what all this is. I mean, I should do this right now. Is manufacturing best of breed software. If you Google that, find out what you come up with, and there's a ton out there. Hopefully there's an article, Rebecca, that ERP advisors would come up on how to find best of breed manufacturing software. But, there's a lot of options, but again, find the right people. They can help you navigate that for sure.
Right. Well, Shawn, I mean, we touched on a lot of the needs of a business, of knowing like what your business is and what the very specifics are. But how should a business go about selecting the right application for them, starting with the needs, evaluating their functionality? Can you talk to us a little bit about that as we come to the end of our time?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Again, this is for the do-it-yourselfers out there, which by the way, we've been talking about a do-it-yourself workshop for ERP selection, and that's
right.
coming to fruition. So stay tuned on that. So come to our workshops, what I should say,
Yeah.
or hire us to do the whole thing. But if you're adventurous, do it on your own. And here's the things to do. Like you said, get your needs set, like define what it is. And especially when you're talking to people to say, oh, okay, what do you need, right? Because one person usually doesn't work in every department. They usually work in one department. So you got to go to the other departments, functional areas to figure out what they need. So, you can ask the question, hey, what would you like to have in software? And they go, oh, I would like to, get Chris Fowler. I want this and this and this. And then you say, okay, good. Would you be willing to pay for that out of your own salary? And see what they say. Just
if
throw it
it's
out there.
really that important.
If it's really that important. And you know what? The good people, the people that really know the business and know the opportunity, they'll say, yes, I would. I believe that this would really help us out. Great. Get the real, genuine needs. Then you do need to make sure that you have some idea of pricing, because you don't want to go talk to vendors unless you know that you can afford it.
That's right.
You kind of look like an idiot to everybody when you do that, especially if you start pulling in other people from around the company to do demos. And then somebody says, okay, the software is going to be and the implementation and data migration and the project management is going to be $750,000. And you go, but I only have $250,000. Wah, wah, wah. Somebody's got that sound machine in my office. I think Natalie has it. And it goes, wah, wah, wah. Right? So here's a quick trip. Here's another golden nugget on how to estimate software pricing. You can always call a vendor and just say, hey, here's generally my needs. Tell me how much you think that software is going to cost with this many users. So you should at least know the modules at a high level and the users, and then say, like, seriously, list price. How much is this going to cost? It's $100,000. Okay, fine. Here's what's going to happen. The price will go down with discounts, but it will go up with additional modules you didn't know you needed that now you do.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. I'd add 25, 50% on top of that. And then I would multiply that times 2. And that's getting closer to what your total cost of ownership is. If you have a bunch of crappy data or you don't have anybody available in the business at all, I would take that software number that we just came to, I'd multiply it by 3 and then probably even 4. So the software is going to be $200,000. That's going to be all in $800,000.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's real. Now, some vendor, we can do it cheaper. There's no question. It can happen cheaper, but you just have to understand the orders of magnitude of pricing here, especially for manufacturing, trying to roll this out across their whole business. And if they have international sites and they've got other sites around the country, this stuff is not easy to do. It can be done. And the value is through the roof. Can you imagine being able to make decisions about the business?
Right.
That are in the app? We actually can look at our data now and say, oh, that's why are these 2 plants, why are their yields different if it's a process manufacturer? Let's go back and look at the batch control records. Let's look at the temperatures of the machines. This machine runs hot. This machine runs cold. Oh, that's why. Maintenance records, right? We want to track the maintenance, repair, and operations for some of these manufacturers, Juliet. That's another best of breed area. We got to track how often we maintain these machines, right? That's another functional area.
Right.
So I'm telling you, every client we have, that's not true. HR is different. HR, human capital management software is different.
Mm.
ERP, though, we can always develop a business plan that is clear where the business value is. Now, we did have a client we did that with, and they did not have the capital available to invest in the software. Their people were really busy, and we said, don't do this.
Right.
There's reasons why you wouldn't, but what I'm trying to get to is the reasons why you would are obvious. So just, like swallow that like fear, uncertainty, doubt when you hear those estimates, guys, but at least somebody's telling you the truth.
That's right. That's right. And, like it's overwhelming and it's a lot of money to confront, but in the end, like if it improves your bottom line, it improves your efficiency and your production. I mean, it's well worth it in the end, right? And if it improves your team's performance, right?
Exactly. Their morale, because people aren't doing stupid stuff like, I can't tell you how many clients we have that, they're on the shop floor and there's a piece of paper with pencil writing on, oh, here's the lot number that went in, to this unit. Don't sneeze on it. Don't spill your coffee or, there's machines, so there's oil, right? Like, everybody's at different phases in their digital transformation, blah, blah. It's true.
That's right.
But, it really ultimately for me, I think the whole reason, I just realized this recently, why I love what we do is because when we do a good job for our clients, their employee morale goes through the roof.
Right.
Because people are doing things that they know innately are right, and that they're doing a great job. They're doing the right things instead of stupid stuff that we did in the 80s or whatever,
Right.
Like we're in 2023. We should have electronic records for everything we do. And then you can start adding really complex planning and, all kinds of KPIs and other kinds of things, vendor scorecards and all this other fun stuff that's the real reason why everybody wants to do ERP, but you got to get your house in order first, like we always say.
That's right. That's right. And as we know, like I said, it's a lot to confront, but in the end, it's worth it for sure.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So, my gosh. Well, Shawn, thanks so much for your time today. And as always, sharing such good information. And let's see, I think I might have a question that just came up. Actually, if you have another minute, let's see.
Sure.
Shawn, can you speak to the value of having a well-scripted demo script for the vendor to follow?
Oh, God. That whoever that person is, I love them.
And I even know the answer to that.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, Juliet, you answer it.
Yes. The value of it is very important, right?
It totally is. Now here's the thing. Everything that we do, right? We have to keep this one thing in mind. There is a cost benefit analysis that you have to do on how long you take to do anything, right? So there's a point of diminishing returns with a demo script.
Okay.
Do not take weeks and weeks and weeks to develop a demo script, but it has to have the key points that the people want to see, right? If my wife is listening, Erica, are you in there? Erica, if you just wrote up a list of everything you wanted and needed for me, I would then be able to do at least some of it, right? But it's kind of true. Like if the vendor's like, oh, thank goodness, I can see exactly what they want to see here. And then you keep the vendor to the order in which the script is written, then all of your people are like, oh my gosh, I see it. I see it. I see it. I see it. So it makes tons of sense. Now, do you have to do a demo script that shows things like when we take inventory out and put it in the job, that I want to see the journal entries that take it out of inventory and put it into WIP or whatever. Maybe the accountants need to see that, show it, right? But ERP's come a long way. So some of the things we kind of know it just does too. So we always say this, always, your demo script has to focus on your unique business requirements. And listen, if you got somebody that wants to see the journal entries, put it in. That's fine, right? But focus on sort of what you need And so the vendors know what to show you. That's only fair to the vendors. Like, come on, how can you not do that to them and expect them to have a good demo for you? You know, you kind of got to create a little bit and help it out.
Right. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for answering that.
Good.
I don't see that anything else has come through, but thanks again for your time. And as always, for all the information you share. And I learned so much. So thank you.
Good. Well, I also have to thank everybody because I'm going to take this thing off.
Yeah. Let's see where you are.
The summer. Here, can you see the back? I don't know if you can see the water. There you go.
Look at that blue water. Oh my gosh.
I've had a bit of a sabbatical this summer that everybody at EAG has helped me to hold down the fort and handle everything. And it has meant the world to me that you guys have done a great job in Denver, really around the country this summer. And it's coming to an end. I think I may not go. We'll see. No. But thanks to everybody on the team and definitely to our clients and even our vendors and everybody for just keeping the show on the road. Well, I got to take a couple, some time off after 13 years. So I just wanted to say to everybody.
Well-deserved time for yourself, Shawn. Definitely. So awesome. Okay. Well, thanks again. And we'll catch you on our next webinar for sure. And everyone, thank you again for joining us today. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help in any way we can. You can call us, email us. We're happy to help. Be sure to join us for our next webinar on Thursday, August 17th, why really great HCM software should matter to your business, when we will explore the business opportunities made possible through HCM software. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equates to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.
Everybody.
Bye.